How's everybody doing out there? So finally our last section of chapter 3, and this is probably going to feel like a breath of fresh air compared to the last sections with our fundamental counting and permutations and combinations. And so in this case we're talking about what are called odds. And so again, if you've played any kind of like lottery things, and I've given some examples and stuff like that, you've got some different odds that you'll see. So like the odds of winning the grand prize in the Powerball is 1 in 195 million something something something. The odds of winning the top prize in the Maryland Bonus Match 5 game is 1 in 575,757. The odds of winning one spot Keno is 1 in 3, and so on and so on. And so it's basically giving us kind of a way of using probabilities to estimate, like what's our chance of actually winning something. And so the way these are going to work is we're going to either think about our odds against or our odds in favor of an event occurring. And so they're very similar in terms of how we set them up. And so I'll talk about each one of them as we go through. So if we look at our odds against of an event occurring, so what we're looking at is the probability that the event fails to occur on the top divided by the probability that the event actually occurs on the bottom. So this is using some of our nut stuff that we had talked about before. So for example, if we wanted to find the odds against rolling a 6 on a 6-sided die, then the first thing we want to do is find the probability of rolling a 6 and the probability of not rolling a 6. That's going to be the key to this one. And since we're trying to find the odds against, then that means we want to put the not on the top. So notice we put our 5/6 on the top and our 1/6 on the bottom. And so from here, the nice thing is, since we're using probability, or the same type of setup for our probability, these denominators are always going to be exactly the same. So they're going to cancel out every single time. And so I skipped one step here just to try to conserve, but what this would look like in symbol form is 5/6 divided by 1/6. And when we deal with the division of fractions, what we do is we leave the first fraction alone and flip-flop the second fraction. And so since we've got a 6 on the top and a 6 on the bottom, those guys are going to cancel out, and so we're going to be left with just 5/1. Or if we want to write it in terms of words, we'd say that the ratio was 5:1, or sometimes you'll see this colon, 5:1. So whenever we're talking about the odds against, we put the probability of failure on the top. If we're looking for the odds in favor, then we just flip-flop it. We basically take the reciprocal of our answer. We put the positive event on the top, the probability that the event occurs on the top, the probability the event fails on the bottom, and we just get the opposite fraction. So for the one we had above, if we were trying to figure out the odds in favor of rolling a 6, instead of having 5/1, we'd end up with, 1/5. And that would be it for that one. So, all right, so again, hopefully this seems much, much easier than what we did in the last section, and kind of a nice way to finish off the chapter here for us. So go ahead, work on these guys. Now this one's a little tricky, so skip practice 3. This one's a little tougher because it uses combinations, and not that you can't do it, it's just ugly to write out and stuff like that, so feel free if you want to look at it or mess around with it, but otherwise this one's more complicated than we really need. So focus on practice 1, 2, and 4. Those are all a lot more reasonable and stuff. All right, if you have any questions or anything about odds or anything in general from chapter 3, just let me know. But awesome job, everybody. Keep up the good work.